welcome to our daily news program coming to you here on Canal Algérie and in today's top stories. The 75th anniversary of the Nakba is commemorated for the first time at the UN premises in New York City against a background of a growing escalation by the Zionist forces against the defenseless Palestinians. The Algerian-Portuguese cooperation is expected to witness a greater momentum following the signing of minutes, likewise with the Algerian-Argentinian partnership. And child exploitation is commonplace in Morocco, plunging furthermore the vulnerable social segments into poverty and misery. Good evening and welcome back for First Hour News. And this Monday coincides with the 75th anniversary of the Nakba, or the Palestinian catastrophe, which led to the ouster of no less than 800,000 Palestinians from their lands by the Zionist entity. The novelty of this year is the commemoration of this event for the first time at the UN premises in New York City. Melissa Kebash tells us more.
For the first time, the headquarters of the United Nations in New York commemorated the Nakba, or the Palestinian catastrophe, by a committee of the UN for the exercise of the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people. This 75th anniversary comes in a context marked by the increase of violence of the occupation forces. More than 140 Palestinians were killed since the beginning of the year. The Nakba for Palestinians is the creation of the Zionist entity in 1948, pushing Palestinians to take refuge in the neighboring countries. Between the years of 1947 and 1949, more than 500 villages were demolished. Expulsion and murder resume the definition of the Zionist entity. In Gaza and the occupied territories, even at the international level, Palestinians didn't fail to commemorate this historical date of May 15th by carrying a number of demonstrations, reaffirming their attachment to establishing an independent Palestinian state with Al-Quds as its capital. May 15th is also a date that recalls the suffering of Palestinians, as well as the blockade being imposed on Gaza. According to the permanent representative of the Palestinian state, Riyad Mansour, it is time for a consultative opinion on the International Court of Justice at a time where bombings all over the place claiming more lives among innocent Palestinians. This anniversary is also marked by the death in prison of the Palestinian detainee Khadr Adnan after a hunger strike of 86 days.
ثالث الحرمين المسجد الأقصى يدنس بحضور جنود محتلين بصبابتهم في المسجد الأقصى ولا واحد يحرك ساكن.
As for Algeria, it never hesitated to showcase its support to the Palestinian cause and the Palestinian people. And as stated by the president, Algeria's position towards this cause will never change.
المواقف تاعنا ما تغيرش لا بالتقادم ولا بالتخاذل.
On Algeria's diplomatic front, the Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad Minister Ahmed Attaf arrived on Monday to Saudi Arabia for an official visit, the aim of which is to strengthen the bilateral and cooperation relations between the two countries. Ahmed Attaf jointly presided over with his Saudi counterpart Prince Faisal bin Farhan Abdullah Al Saud the proceedings of the fourth session of the Algerian-Saudi Commission for Political Consultations, a mechanism meant to speed up coordination and consultations between the two brotherly countries regarding issues of common interest. It is worth mentioning that the head of the Algerian diplomacy will take part in the preparatory ministerial meetings of the 32nd Arab Summit slated for the 19th of next May. And moving on to the Algerian-Portuguese partnership, Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman received on Monday the Minister of Economy and Maritime Affairs of Portugal, Antonio Costa Silva, now on a working visit to Algeria. The meeting was an opportunity for the two sides to review bilateral relations and the means to further boost them in accordance with the results of the sixth session of the Algerian-Portuguese Joint Working Group for Economic Cooperation. And a cooperation minutes was signed crowning the 6th session of the joint working group. It concerns mainly the sectors of fisheries, startups, metallurgy and renewable energies. Ines Kilo with the details.
The Minister of Industry and Pharmaceutical Production and the Portuguese Minister of Economy and Maritime Affairs co-chaired the session of the Algerian-Portuguese Working Group, during which Ali Aoun reiterated Algeria's commitment to give a new impetus to bilateral economic relations within a mutual beneficial framework. He pleaded in favor of identifying other axes likely to beef up cooperation.
The signing of this minute is part of revitalizing the Algerian-Portuguese cooperation, and we will also follow up on the sectoral commission in the fields of fisheries, startups and digitization.
The Portuguese minister stressed the relevance of the exchanges during this meeting, especially ahead of the Algerian-Portuguese Business Forum, which will be held shortly in Lisbon, considering Algeria as a key reliable partner in an increasingly frail world, both economically and geopolitically. Costa Silva affirmed the willingness of his country to increase fivefold its investment in Algeria during the next 5 years.
L'Algérie a un gros projet d'intégrer des énergies renouvelables dans le réseau de la production d'électricité.
Algeria has a big project to integrate renewable energies on the 15-gigawatt electricity grid, and we are going to cooperate in the field because we have experience in renewable energy. Both countries can contribute not only to establish a good relationship in the Mediterranean and to work for a stable Mediterranean, and to have stability in Africa and Europe and even in the Middle East. And this is an objective that we will achieve.
Dans l'Afrique, dans l'Europe et aussi au Moyen-Orient, et ça c'est un cible aussi qu'on va atteindre.
At the end of this meeting, several officials from different ministerial departments were present to explore with their Portuguese counterparts the possibilities of partnerships and cooperation opportunities offered by both sides.
Still in the field of cooperation, a framework agreement was signed between the Transport Minister Youssef Sharfa and his Cameroonian counterpart Jean-Ernest Massé Nangali. This agreement is meant to further consolidate cooperation and friendly ties between the two countries. Melissa Kebash tells us more.
Cooperation between Algeria and Cameroon keeps growing through various accords and agreements signed between the two countries in different fields, including that of transport and meteorology, which aims at exchanging knowledge and expertise.
This signing comes 2 years after a former agreement between the two countries to open flights between Algeria and Cameroon and make the Algerian International Airport of Ouari Boumediene a hub that links Cameroon's airports with European ones.
For his part, the Cameroonian minister, accompanied by a delegation, indicated that this visit to Algeria is carried out to consolidate cooperation in the transport sector.
Notre venue ici aujourd'hui, la délégation camerounaise,
We are here today to fulfill the wish of both heads of state to abrogate cooperation established since the 17th. This cooperation witnessed a large development over the years and came to fruition with the signing of an area agreement in 2021. Therefore, we aim to consolidate this cooperation in all transport fields, as well as the friendly ties linking the two countries.
Cet accord cadre vient donc renforcer ces liens de coopération, ces liens d'amitié entre l'Algérie et le Cameroun.
A number of domains are contained in this framework agreement, with a judicial framework that reinforces exchange between the two countries, especially in the field of air and maritime transport. It also encourages cooperation between research institutions entrusted with ensuring training and the transport and med field.
Still with transport, Algérie Airlines company signed on Monday in Algiers a memorandum of understanding with its Mauritanian counterpart in quest of strengthening the ties between the two companies in the trade and technical training sectors, as well as maintenance. The signing ceremony took place between the CEOs of the two companies in the presence of the Transport Minister. In another context, the Chamber of Commerce and Industry hosted the Algerian Argentinian Forum, during which cooperation opportunities were reviewed. The forum was held in the presence of a delegation of 40 Argentinian economic actors representing different sectors. Our reporter Najah Tayyar was there and compiled the following story.
As a part of consolidating the Algerian-Argentinian bilateral relations and giving new impetus to cooperation between the two countries, the Algerian Chamber of Commerce held the Algerian-Argentinian Business and Bilateral Meetings Forum, which was an opportunity for the two sides to discuss ways to reinforce the bilateral relations and upgrade them to the highest levels.
I
would like to reaffirm the Algerian-Argentinian links' firmness. In this meeting, we presented the business and investment opportunities for these two brotherly countries that their exchange volume is over $2 billion. This figure, which is not too high comparing to what the two countries can achieve together due to their great potentials. The two sides seized the opportunity to review the strong relations that exist in all fields, such as the grain sector, agricultural food, dairy industry, beekeeping industry, agricultural machinery, minerals, etc. And the evidence was the participation of more than 100 Algerian investors and 40 Argentinian investors. I would first thank the Algerian authorities who welcomed us today for this very crucial exchange meeting. Argentina and Algeria have strong and deep relations, and through this meeting we can consolidate the links even more. Argentina has great industrial potentials in the agricultural industry, pharmaceutical industry and many others. All these will allow us to offer more for Algeria, thus strengthen the commercial ties. The Director General of the Algerian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, as well as Argentina Ambassador in Algeria, reiterated the readiness and the will of both countries to engage in deeper political and economic dialogue to boost the trade exchanges.
In another context, the delegation of the Nigerian Institute for Political and Strategic Studies carries on its visit to our country. On Monday, the delegation headed to the National Institute for Strategic and Global Studies, where it listened to interventions regarding Algeria's experience in the sectors of industry, energy and energy security, as well as environment. In a new development, the National Hajj and Umrah Office announced the extension of administrative and health procedures, as well as the Hajj fees payment to the 20th of the current month. In a different story, Morocco is ranked among the most unequal countries in the world. The Makhzen is increasingly sinking its population, especially children, into poverty, as child labor has become a commonplace, according to the non-governmental organization Oxfam in a Skillo report.
The Makhzen continues to drive its population into misery and vulnerability, according to a recent report by the non-governmental organization Oxfam on the domestic work of Moroccan girls. Morocco has been labeled as one of the most unequal countries in the world, stating that in Morocco only 10% of the population owns more than 63% of the total wealth, while 50% possesses less than 5%. This is the same side of Moroccan society overexploited by the Makhzen regime and is relied internally and externally, and even more serious since the first victims of poverty and vulnerability are indeed children. During the year 2020-2021, the national dropout rate in Morocco was 5.3% in the public sector, representing more than 331,000 school children, a figure that is up from the previous year, with disparities between urban and rural areas. Regarding the main subject of the report, which is the exploitation of young girls in domestic work, the NGO noted that in Morocco, thousands of children, mainly girls, and some as young as 8 years old, work in private homes as domestic servants. They usually come from poor rural areas and are sent by their guardians to the cities, hoping to offer them a better life while helping them financially. Instead, they often face physical and verbal abuses, isolation, and 7-day-a-week work schedule that begins at dawn and continues until late at night. The same document states that these girls, who are poorly paid domestic workers and hardly ever go to school, face precarious, dangerous, and slave-like working conditions and are exposed to violence and harassment with serious consequences for their physical and mental health and safety.
And we wind up our news with the Turkish presidential elections. Recep Tayyip Erdogan and his main rival Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu will have to face each other in a runoff on May the 28th, a first in Turkey's history, which will be confirmed with the final and official announcement of these elections' results. And with that, we come to the end of our today's program. Thank you for tuning in, and goodbye.